Today is All Saints' Day, year of our Lord 2018. And as unusual as this statement may seem, the church that I grew up in rarely talked about death. We speak around death often in church. We want to gloss over death with these beautiful images of future events as shared in the book of Revelations when we hear, "I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband." And the church often takes transitional stances as shared in the book of Isaiah when we hear, "And then the Lord will wipe away the tears from all faces." The church has also allowed people to have simple answers for incredibly difficult and hard questions. At funerals, we often hear, "This was part of God's plan. God must have needed so-and-so." Or perhaps we even heard words like, "God must have needed a plumber, a carpenter, or a homemaker in the kingdom of God." Yet, the witness of our gospel scripture today, where Jesus is present at the moment following the death of his dear friend Lazarus, we can almost see, feel, and experience that Jesus truly recognizes the power of death on the people affected by death. And that Jesus mourns death as a separation from Jesus himself and from the community that loved Lazarus. And in fact, the gospel writer John shares with you and I that Jesus is angered by these facets of human mortal death. Now, I heard a rumor and I questioned whether or not I should share it with all of you, but I trust you, so I heard this rumor recently. Every one of us in this holy place will die. Each one of us in this holy place has been affected by death. The truth of the situation is that you and I live in this in-between state. We live in a time in which we know we will die, but somehow we try to kid ourselves or convince ourselves that it will happen far off in the future distance and we need not think about it. I don't know about the rest of you, but I get incredibly concerned when I hear people speak and act as if they understand all the answers of heaven, that they understand all about death and are 100% assured and guaranteed that their understanding is also the understanding of our God. As if there's any mere mortal that can fully understand death through the eyes and the heart of our God. Rather, each one of us in our own path, in our own time, in our own way, comes to certain things that we believe we understand about death. And so this morning, instead of sharing your hearts with flowery images of the life that is to come, I think I do well to reflect with each of you about things that I think 20 years of ordained ministry have shared with me about death. I believe at the time of mortal death that nobody is alone. I believe that whether it's loved ones who have moved before us, God's Spirit, or an angel, or God's self, that nobody ever dies alone. I believe that at the time of mortal death, even when there is great suffering leading to that moment, that there always seems to be a sense of peace, a sense of holiness, as God becomes present in that moment. I believe that every single person that dies has someone who loved them dearly. That no matter what their life looked like, they have left behind a legacy of love that someone carries forward into the world. And I believe that every single person who experiences mortal death has indeed truly loved someone themselves. I believe that at the time of death, the really important things in this world begin to surface. I have never been at the bedside of someone passing over into God's realm and heard them speak about the cars that they owned, the vacations they took, the house that they had, the beautiful things they bought. Rather, in that moment, people speak about trueness and genuine, authentic things that are important. They speak about the relationships they have with loved ones. They speak of their relationship with our God. They speak and reflect over the course of their life and the things that brought them great joy and also the things that they regretted. I think at the time of death, all these worldly things that you and I see as successful just fade away as the person begins to realize the divine reality of God. I believe that in mortal death, that those who are left behind truly do carry the light and the love of those people who are no longer among us. So in some very real and profound ways, when we experience moments of great joy or exhilaration, our loved ones in heavens experience those moments through our eyes. And recently, I've come to believe that in mortal death, our loved ones carry part of us into the heavenly realm. And that it's through our eyes in heaven that you and I are able to see and experience those glimpses of heaven here on earth. I believe that at death, people finally come to the realization of just how precious time actually is. That in that moment, people realize the time wasted in anger, the time wasted in petty arguments, the time that's been wasted in frustration, the time that's been wasted in moments that don't exude love. And finally, I believe that there is no such thing as death. I believe that the proclamation of the gospel suggests to you and I that death is no longer relevant, that there is only ever new life. Just as I believe God is present with humans from the time of conception, I believe God is present with us not only through our mortal life, but also in the life beyond this physical world. And for myself, that brings me great comfort. And that fact informs me about life itself. Death, I believe, shares information with you and I about how God desires us to live a good life. Taking the lessons of our understanding surrounding mortal death and applying them to our daily living. Realizing now that it's not worth our efforts or our time to be inspired by hate or fear or violence or nasty words or bicker over things that ultimately are not important. I believe that in our daily life we can experience the preciousness of time and how you and I want to spend the precious time that we have. Who really do we want to give power to in this life? Who do we want to give power to in this life when things of this world try to separate us from the preciousness of time and the love God freely shares with all of us? And finally, it allows us to ask the question, who truly is our refuge and our strength, very present help in our time of trouble? Life, I believe, has the ability to give vision to death and see how at the core of God there is only one simple and beautiful truth. That is that God is love. When you and I witness people offering true forgiveness and reconciliation, our spirits know and inform us that in forgiveness there is an eternal truth, a divine presence, a glimpse of what is to come. When you and I witness what true companionship looks like, that people don't walk away from other people in their time of need, that people don't speak poorly about one another over silly things, then we experience a vision of God's divine reality, and we can know what is in store for us. When our eyes witness true love, not that fake kind of love that abandons or leaves, but true love, you and I can know that in love all things become possible. That people we never expected to love are the ones that draw closest to us. We know that there is no force greater in this entire world that has the potential for real change, greater than the force of love. If our eyes, our hearts, our life could see the world exactly how God loves this world, then wouldn't this world itself be amazingly beautiful? Mortal death could never again gain foothold in our lives. Fear would have no space in our lives. Darkness would be banished from our eyes, because we see the world the same way God does. One more thing about today's gospel lesson. Jesus and God absolutely reject any kind of death that is lasting. That each one of us is always offered a continual renewal of life. There is no need for you and I to wait for future events to occur for that renewal of life to happen. Each life in the presence of God is meaningful. Every life matters. Each of us has saints among us, walking with us. When God talks about wiping away our tears, God does that today through the saints that dwell among us. Most of all, each one of us is invited to be a saint, embodying the life-giving love that God has for this world. On this All Saints' Day, let it not be said that your community of faith does not speak of death. But be mindful, my friends, because in this world, sin and evil will always work to upend the renewal of life and love that has always been, is, and always will be God's greatest desire. Don't give death that upper hand. Don't allow the fear of death to have a say in your life before it's come. Rather, allow yourself to simply be enveloped by God, to feel God's presence, to feel God's love, and this